And now, coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, it's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an energetic healer. I'm a 29-year talk radio host in Los Angeles and beyond. I'm a creative and a performing artist and a paranormal survivor. And I come to you live from my home in Southern California every Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. This show is about spirituality. It's about creativity. It's about humanity. It's about passion. It's about service. It's about becoming and maintaining being your best you in this big, beautiful world, and then inspiring others to do the same. And it may be my show. It is the Sheena Metal Experience after all, but it's always and undoubtedly, without a doubt, your experience. My guest today is a wonderfully talented spiritual practitioner, shaman, healer, medium, and all-around wonderful person and spiritual being, and a very dear friend of mine. Please welcome to the show, the wonderful Rebecca Haywood is back. Hi, how are you, my friend?
Hi, darling. I'm doing
so great to have you here, and so great to have you back here again.
I know.
It's taken a lot for us to be together today. I feel like we've really been through it.
I know. We both have been through it today.
Both have been through it today. So what's on your mind? Like, as the year starts to wrap up, and we're really kind of, you can tell now we're in the wind down, right? People are interested in Christmas shopping and Hanukkah shopping and Kwanzaa shopping, and not really interested in much else right now. What is the end of the year spiritually? What does the wrap up mean to you?
Wow. You know, I just keep the vision that comes to me is sort of the seed underground, you know, and, you know, the importance of nurturing even that which we can't see, right? Of tuning in to the inside, you know, to the internal, to the quiet.
Right. Yes.
And to the yet to bear fruit within us, right? And we can be, especially at this time of year, so focused on the evidence, right?
Yeah.
Like what have we done? What have we accomplished this year? And what do we aim to accomplish next year? And what is the evidence that we're getting there, or that we're going to get there?
Right.
You know, and yet, you know, the unseen and the unknown, the yet to be seen, is alive, very much alive in us. And so let's remember to nurture those seeds, and that the darkness is part of what nurtures those seeds, right? Like every seed needs a certain period of darkness in order to propagate, right? And so let's remember that. Let's remember to go underground. Let's remember to take those moments of rest. Like, what is the underground to me but rest? Inner contemplation, right?
Right. Well, I think in times, right? The idea of Yule was that it was a wrap up to getting ready to hibernate for the winter.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was sort of the last hurrah before the dark time.
Yeah.
And I think that even though we don't live in a dark time anymore because we have lights and Wi-Fi and all kinds of good stuff, I think we still, our bodies have that ancient circadian rhythm, right?
Yeah.
Of preparing to shut down for the dark time.
Yeah, absolutely. The bears within us hibernating.
Right. I mean, it starts right after Halloween, I think, which, you know, for the ancient Celts was the New Year. And then it moves right into daylight savings for us, which then makes it even darker. And when the dark time comes, I think we start thinking about what kind of spice cider we can make,
Mm.
and not necessarily about how many new things can I take on, unless you're me, because the downtime of this time for me is a time of planning for new projects.
Yeah. Yeah. You
That's
love.
when I put things in the works, but I don't actively do them. I put them in the works with the idea of here's what we're going to do after the first of the year. Because I like the wind down of this time too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what you're describing is the planting of the seeds, right? And so I don't see anything wrong with that. That's not necessarily in a countdown to the end, right?
Right.
That's sort of a gearing into a gearing up into the next. And yet, yeah, I just think it's so important that we honor the closing and that we honor the stillness of this time, the stillness that the darkness, is evoking within us, and um, that we honor what has been with gratitude, right? I mean, that's what I tend to be messaging at this time of year and at the new year, instead of jumping into the countdown. It's really, the song is to the old, right? To honor what has been. And
Yeah.
in that, we really truly get to take the seeds of the old into the new, right? And that's ideally what we're doing, not just jumping ahead of ourselves, but really honoring what has been gifted in this year, right?
Absolutely. Do you take time off at this time of year, or are you pretty much in service and you work straight through?
Well, I mean, on the one hand, I'm always in service. On the other hand, I'm always taking time off. All places, baby, at all times, but I don't really know how much say I have over when I'm actively in service and not. I like to think that I do, but
No, I don't think I have any control over it. And I guess that answers the question right there, that you're always in service and you're just waiting to see what the messages are going to be revealed for this time.
yeah, seems like, which I don't lament. I
Right.
learned a while ago. I mean, I used to sort of not lament being in service, but I definitely would tire of it. It was sort of like, but what about me?
Right.
And now I just really, really feel what a gift it is to serve. I suppose when that gift got taken away from me for a little bit, I really missed it, and I realized how much I was served by being served.
Right. Do you
what
talk about that time when the gift got taken away? Is it okay to talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. I haven't really talked about it too much. It's definitely on the docket, in queue somewhere. At some point, if Spirit wants me to share, and maybe that's today, because it was really a beautiful death process, and it's very much in alignment with sort of where we began tonight in our discussion, which is, my body actually was very sick, and I didn't really know. I just there were certain indicators that made me think I needed to actually talk to my doctor and get some testing done, and it turned out that I was in adrenal exhaustion due to heavy metal toxicity.
Oh.
And it was like, I mean, my doctor was like, you're not just like have adrenal fatigue. You're not just a little tired. Like, you're just flatlined. Like, you have a little bit of a blip of energy in the morning at like 7 a.m. And then it's just like right back to this like flat line. Any energy you have is smoke and mirrors. Like, you're just creating it. And he told me, he's known me for quite some time. And he said, what I want you to do is don't source your energy. Like, don't, he said, I know you. Don't tune into the sun or the earth, and just let your body feel exactly how it feels and see what you notice. And sure enough, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't. My body was that exhausted without the help, the tap route that I always use from Spirit, and plugging into the sun and plugging into the earth. And without that, I could not get out of bed. And when I did, I would just have these dizzy spells that would put me right back on my back. And so I rested and I rested and I rested. And when I asked Spirit, why, what is this? Because I fully believe in the perfection of life, and embracing that perfection brings us deeper into the experience that Spirit wants for us, the evolution, right, that we're meant to be revolving into. And actually, it was during a sound bath healing. I got a one-on-one sound healing with a wonderful woman here in LA, Thais. And the message that I received was, your time to serve is done.
Oh,
that's what Spirit told me. Yeah, your time to serve is done.
Was that scary to hear that
Yeah,
message? That would terrify me if I heard that. I'd be like, well, what do I do now? Work at Taco Bell? Like, what am I supposed to do?
Oh, 100%. I didn't know who I was, what I was, what to do. Like, it just felt like there wasn't, like, sort of a reason for living. Like, why
right.
not going to be in service? Because that's all I've really known.
Right. Yeah. I feel that way. I don't know what I would do.
Yeah. And it really, and yet I honored it. I just said, okay, then I trust you, Spirit. And that's just what I've learned. And of course, there was part of me like, no, you don't really mean this, Spirit. You just mean like for a temporary, to experience maybe being served by life, to be on the other side of this, service business. Like, this is the why of it, right? Like, the mind wanted to make up the reasons to make myself feel more comfortable in this.
Sure.
Yet I knew that if I didn't embrace that directive, that I wouldn't get the lesson that I was meant to, and that perhaps I wouldn't heal, my body wouldn't heal. So I embraced it, and it really felt like a death of the deepest kind. And I've gone through spiritual deaths again and again. You know me, I'm a Scorpio. We love to die early and die often.
I was going to say, you die every couple of years. It's a Scorpio thing.
Yeah. And yeah, but this was a death, like, just everything. And it was a death of the healer.
Yeah.
I feel like I've sort of gone through that before, but not to this degree. I've died as sort of like the apprentice, like Sarita's, my grandmother, her apprentice. I've died to that lineage. I've died to the Toltec. I've died to, how I languaged myself as a healer. I died in all of those ways of sort of the faces of the healer, but I wouldn't say I ever completely died as the healer itself, as the one in service. And yet I did. And it was, gosh, the time frame was maybe about a year and a half of not healing people. And kept.
Wow. That's a long time. I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah. I wasn't doing journeys. I wasn't mentoring people. And I just really surrendered to that. And it really wasn't until, about a year and a half in, and I got the opportunity actually to sit with ayahuasca for the first time. And
first time.
First time. Yeah. It wasn't a part of my lineage,
Sure.
My grandmother and Miguel, it just, it wasn't something I personally needed. And really, it wasn't the way that they taught the way to God or to enlightenment. They kind of felt like you need to get there on your own, of your own accord.
Yeah.
So it was my first time, and I felt really called. And the conversation with, as they call ayahuasca, grandmother, my conversation with grandmother was very strong, even before the weekend began. It began pretty much the moment I said yes, very much like a journey to Teotihuacan. I always tell my students, the journey will begin the moment you say yes. And so, like, I started dreaming with her. She came to me in the form of a phoenix, quite a vicious phoenix. She was not gentle with me at all. And anyway, it was really an intense journey with her throughout that weekend. And that's when service came back. It was actually 2 nights with grandmother, ayahuasca. And then a full day with grandfather Wachuma, which is also known as San Pedro. It's made from the San Pedro cactus. And it was on that third day with grandfather that the service came back. And I wasn't trying to serve. It was just happening naturally. The other participants sort of found themselves coming to me, or just, I would pull a crystal out of my medicine bag and I just like gave it to this woman who I saw sitting. I just felt like she needed it. I didn't say anything. I wasn't trying to heal her. I just was being friendly, just being me. And other participants just were coming to me for reflection. And again, I wasn't teaching, I wasn't doing anything. And just the message just said, this is what you are. This is just what you are. And it just opened something inside of me, and that I felt in that death, in that complete letting go, that I was able to honor that, yes, indeed, this is what I am, without any pretense, without any mask, without any tools, without any of the sort of form of healer or storyline of healer, the great lineage that I was adopted into, without any of that. Like, remember, this is just what you are. Like the love that you are, this is enough. To love is enough. And that's just sort of when it came back to life inside of me, and in a new way, of course, and yet in a deeper way. And very interestingly enough, I found myself, and I continue to find myself honoring my grandmother's lineage more than ever, right? And isn't that the truth? Sometimes we have to let something go in order to really discover it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was beautiful because before this experience of physical illness, I never quite connected with an aspect of my grandmother's lineage, which was psychic surgery. She was amazing. She had made paralyzed people walk, blind people see. She would move tumors, cancer, everything. And I was never really called to that physical healing. Of course, I would do it in emergency situations. I would do it, and for friends and family, but I just wasn't really called. I didn't have a lot of compassion for most people's physical disease. I really didn't. And just being honest, but I had great compassion for the emotional dis-ease, for mental dis-ease. And I recognized the why of that, right? Like our calling as healers and as servants of God, of spirit, our calling really is developed by our own journey, right? By our own suffering, right? That's how we develop the medicine to give to others, is by developing it for ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I hadn't really had personal physical dis-ease up to that point. I had had a lot of emotional dis-ease, right? All the sexual trauma in my life, and mental dis-ease and coping with that trauma and PTSD. But I hadn't had the physical. So I really didn't have that compassion for the physical, because where was it in me, right? I hadn't really experienced that pain. And I think until we experience the pain of something, we might not actually have the full compassion for it. And so I found myself suddenly feeling this call, the deepening of the calling to my grandmother's lineage. And wouldn't you know it, my first client back, like after I returned, was someone who needed healing on their spine, who had had several car accidents, and they were at the point where the doctor wanted to fuse their spine. And this was this beautiful young woman who's now a student, and she was in her 20s and just yogi and all these things. And she just said, I really don't want to do this. Can you help me? And I said, yes, absolutely. And I had utmost compassion for her. And it was amazing. Within the first session, all her pain was gone. And now her spine is completely healed. She has all her mobility back. She never had to get so, other than the psychic surgery. And now she's a student, and she's studying these methods because she's just of course, a believer. And so, yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing story. Sorry for the long story, but
no, I love that story.
Yeah. So,
what do you believe caused your physical problem?
Well, the physical cause was heavy metal toxicity, which was from my teeth.
From your what?
Teeth, my fillings.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh no! You have to have all your mercury taken out?
I did. I went to a biomimetic dentist here in LA, and he very safely removed all of the mercury fillings and replaced them with biomimetic fillings. So they'll last me a lifetime, baby. Don't mess with these.
Wow. Exactly. Don't mess with Jaws now.
Yeah.
But do you think that from a spiritual level, that you had to be given that in order to have that same kind of empathy for people's physical problems?
Absolutely. Yeah. I believe that if it wasn't that, it would have been something else, you know? So yeah, I think that spirit finds whatever your Achilles heel is and says, great, well, she needs this physical experience because she's not cluing in to the compassion to be the complete embodiment of this lineage and the gifts that it has to offer. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I did not know that about you, that you were not into treating the physical.
Yeah. I mean,
that wasn't your thing.
Yeah. It wasn't something I advertised that I wasn't into it, but that's the beauty. I didn't have to, right? Because our own aversions as healers, we only attract the clients that we're ready for, that are ready for us and that we're ready for. So I really wasn't attracting a lot of people that needed physical healing other than family. I mean,
concerned about the ayahuasca in the middle of, basically being poisoned by the metals in your teeth.
Yeah.
Were you worried about taking something that is basically poisoning you, and that's how you're getting the visions and the truth?
Oh yeah, very much so. I made sure that I went with a very experienced and very educated medicine carrier, and I had already restored a lot of my adrenals. They were, maybe at 70% at that point. So, I really checked in. I checked in with my acupuncturist. I checked in with the medicine carrier, and she was very well versed. And that said, it still ended up being a little too much for my body. By the second night, I actually passed out, which you're not supposed to do. Yeah, I passed out. I went flat on the floor.
Okay.
But it was okay. I survived. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the experience. It's the only time I've done ayahuasca, the one time so far.
And do you feel like you need to do it again? Or do you think that was the experience that you're grateful for and it doesn't need to be a repeat?
I don't make such decisions. I haven't yet felt the call to do it again.
Okay.
It's not a never again for me. I really respect these plant medicines and there are some that, really like ayahuasca are so strong and, really traditionally, I mean, I say this very humbly because I know that there are many servers that believe in serving often in a person's lifetime. But what I know of, like in the Apache way, is that it's really meant for big thresholds in your life, big coming of ages, if you will. And it's not meant for everyone. You remember Tatiana, your show before, and who used to co-host with me on Shameless Feminine. And and she grew up Apache. I think it was Apache. And yeah, like her grandmother was like, no, sweetheart, you don't get this medicine because your head is already in the cloud, right?
I'm sorry, you cut out. Your head is already in the what?
In the clouds. Like,
okay.
You don't need to go up. You need more grounding, right? And so I think it's important for people to really, weigh that, to really gauge, like, is this, and to really ask, because grandmother will tell you, she's not shy in telling you. and yet are you listening? Are you really listening? Because she clearly was ready for me and wanted me to come, and I got that message loud and clear. And she hasn't called me since. So I trust that she'll call me if I'm meant to return. And whenever that moment arrives, if it ever arrives. And in the meantime, I'll keep meditating and going to Teotihuacan and getting my rockets off that way. Works just fine.
I understand. It's people ask me sometimes, because as my friend, that I don't put substances in my body. I never have in my life. And I know people think that's weird. I understand culturally in our world, that's weird. But for me, I think the same thing. There was always I'm always trying to stay in my body. And I didn't need things that took me out. I need things that bring me grounding. And I never had all those questions that people sometimes need psychedelics to do or journeys to do. I seem to be able to get those answers and more without any of that. I just needed to work with the universe a lot to keep me here. And especially after I had my head injury and my near-death experience in the accident, it became even that much harder for me to stay here. So I think I just always kind of have a foot and a half in the fairy world, which is why I've stayed away from things like that, that take you out of your body. I completely understand and support everybody doing what they got to do to get closer to them. But it's never been a thing that I felt that I needed. And I always say that because I think it's okay for people to know that it's not okay. And everybody always tries to I know you've never drank, but you'll drink with me. Oh, I know you've never smoked pot, but you'll smoke mine. Oh, I know you've never done coke, but you'll do it with me. And I was so surprised when I got into the spiritual world that people were going to be like, oh no, you'll do the ayahuasca with me. And I'm like, I just don't know. No, it's just not something I'm interested in. And I think it's okay. It's okay. Yes, it's great to do it. And I support 100%, but it's also okay to say no. And you know what's right for you. And you know when the time is right. And that's the beautiful thing about having those kind of spiritual tools at your disposal. Right. That you know when you need it, you know when you don't need it. And it's okay to say everybody doesn't have to do it in the same way that everybody meditates differently. Everybody prays differently. Everybody finds their answers in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important for everyone to check in, because it's never and always, right?
No,
it's never. Not always and never, right? So it's important to check in, because something that may have worked to open you, right? That might be enough. Like, it just opened you, and now you can access that place without the medicine.
Yes.
And in fact, that medicine might be dampening what you're now able to access, right? Like that experience of, taking mushrooms actually in Teotihuacan, not while I was leading a group, but just down there on my own.
And not while you're in charge. No, you're in charge.
No, I mean, that'd be another journey unto itself. But, I really found that I actually had a harder time connecting and downloading the messages that I'm normally able to just access seamlessly. Like, it's just a part of my fabric. And I was like, wow, it just felt like somebody poured water on the computer and it wasn't quite functioning anymore, or in the same way. And so I actually felt more limited as a channel. So, we've got to really listen and ask and ask permission each time, just as we do before we enter a sacred space. We ask permission. Permission. The medicine is now the time. Is today the time? Is this the moment? Is this the place? Like, we need to ask and really listen to that. And don't forget, no matter how much it's working for you, these medicines, people, please do the work in between. Don't rely on it. We're in such a, I can't remember the matrix, the red pill, the blue pill, which one was which, but the pill and get their mentality. And it doesn't work that way, and even Keanu, even Neo, he had to do the work, right? Like he took the pill to wake up in the Matrix, but then he had to do the work to stay awake in the Matrix, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that's the key, is like it might wake you up and you might see all the ones and zeros. You might see all the connections and the spiritual fabric of life, but can you stay awake in that awareness?
Right.
That's,
And is it your time to stay awake in that? It's a
mm,
process. Like people all the time come to me and say, I need a workshop, I need a session that will completely open my third eye, make me a medium, and make me ready to do the work you do. And I'm like, wow, that can happen in an hour? Nobody told me that. It's a opening up to allowing messages from beyond to come into you, to allowing yourself to expand your literal and metaphorical vision in order to take in that kind of consciousness. That's not something you want to do in an hour. That's something that you should be doing slowly to get yourself ready for that kind of expansion to come inside of you. When people have enormous trips, whether they're drug induced or just spirit induced, and they're not ready to receive all those messages, and they insist on trying to go from 0 to 100 as quickly as possible, that's how sometimes, you wind up not well and having some kind of a spiritual or emotional break, because it's a lot, and you have, and it's a constant process of opening up and taking more in, and sometimes pushing things out that you go through a phase where you're like, I can't take as much in right now. I've had to sort of relieve myself since my solar plexus chakra exploded in August and September and October. I've had to sort of be mindful of the amount of toxicity that I take in from clients. Most clients are wonderful. Everybody's got toxicity. That's why they come to us. But every once in a while, you meet somebody who has what my friend calls leaky energy. They push their toxicity onto you. They want someone to take their pain and take it now, and they've picked you. And I was like, bring it on. I'll take it all. And then my solar plexus chakra exploded. And I was like, oh, there is a limit to how much you can take.
Yeah.
And so I've had to pull back on certain folks that I don't see as often now, and one not at all, because of the amount of vitriol that's how it manifested. And I think even if you're in the worst possible place and you're going to get help from a therapist or a spiritual counselor or a minister or a psychic or a shaman, and wherever you're going, you have to be mindful of the fact that you don't have a right to push your stuff onto somebody else. Are you asking for a professional to come and help you relieve the burden? Absolutely. But the way to do that is not to, I need someone to feel miserable and I'm going to give it to you. It doesn't, first of all, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't leave you because you're putting it on someone else. Mm-mm. It's like when you want to say really nasty things to somebody because you feel nasty. It doesn't make you feel better. It just makes you more hollow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's not a way to heal. And I never thought I would, because, I was always the person that was like, oh, you have a client you need to get rid of? I'll take them. I'll take on anybody. And then my body hit a limit of how much I could take. Mm-hmm. So now I'm being a little more mindful of what I allow to pass through my solar plexus chakra. So it's not exploding all the time, because man, that doesn't feel good, and that was a hard decision for me to make, because still as I say this, part of me is like, take it back, tell them you'll do anybody, because I want to be that person. The Aries in me wants to be the one that bring it on. It's just a flesh wound, bring it on. But it was a serious thing. I mean, my solar plexus chakra went into full tilt. Like it reached the amount that it could take.
Yeah.
And it was time for me to just publicly and privately, professionally and privately, make some different decisions for what what was happening and how much I was taking on. And because I'm not good with that. You Scorpios, you're much better with boundaries. You know how to say, okay, I've had enough and now I'm recharging. Much better at that than I am. We Zodiac babies, we're like, bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. And then we wind up somewhere like, I'm dying. So I kind of learned. I remember my mom, when she had her, and my mom, that's Scorpio, when she had her empath overload, she would literally crawl into her chair in the family room. She'd put a musical on. She'd pull her blanket up to her nose and she would say, okay, I'm going away for a while. And she would watch her musicals and she'd nap, sometimes while the musicals were on, until she was recharged, and then she'd come back.
Yep. Yeah. Sounds similar.
I've never been good at that. So I remember times when my ex-boyfriend and I would come down here and the two of them would just sleep for like days. I'm like, you two just sleep. And he'd be on the couch with the blanket up to his nose and she'd be in her chair. And I just like sit in the other chair and work the whole time. But, I have learned a lot of things. I've learned from being here in this home with her, this home where she lived, and where I lived with her for some time and then didn't live with her for a longer time. I have learned a lot about how sometimes you just, with her guidance, sometimes you just have to say, I'm going away.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It is okay, and as healers, we have to trust, that if not me, then someone else. Right. And, it's not our job to take on the world, even though I joke about shamans ship for the world. It's not our job to ship for the whole world. That's a lot of shit.
Ship for the world. That is the best.
Yeah. But, I really had to learn that it was a place of, it was a different level of humility. Like, I didn't really consider myself to be like egotistical as a healer, but I realized that in that frantic feeling of like, I have to help this person. I have to help this person.
Right. Me too. Yeah. Someone needs help. I must come.
Yeah. That there was a little edge of like sort of self-importance in that, like as if I was the only one that could. And, and there was just like wait a minute, look what happens. Like, if not me, someone else. And why not? Right. Why not someone else? And if not me, then it means that there's someone else that's really better suited for that job, not necessarily a better healer. Like, I don't look at us in that way, like better.
Right. Of course. Sure.
And there's going to be someone that's really good at processing that particular strain of emotional poison, right? That you're not in for, right? You're like, no, like, can't even smell it. Like, I'm feeling sick just smelling that emotional poison. Like, great, then let it go. Then, let them find the one that is for them. The thing that I really liked about what you shared is, that so often we think about our tolerance of the negative, right? Like, that we have a limit of the negative, like the emotional poison, but we also have a tolerance for the ecstasy, right? It's not just the agony that we have an intolerance for. There's also an intolerance for the ecstasy side, and that we can, like you said, overload, we can overwhelm, we can fry our circuitry by attempting too much at once, by force open the channel. And you think, well, we can't do that. We can't force open the channel, right? Spirit will only give us what we're ready for. Yes and no. Spirit doesn't really have an opinion, right? Energy,
we have free will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so whether you force open your channel by your own will or with the help of another healer, right? Because I've certainly been guilty of that, of being like, let's do it. Let's really open this person. And then it's like, oops, sorry, that was too much. Like, I'm really sorry. I got excited. And I've learned to really temper myself and titrate, sort of titrate what I'm delivering or what I'm opening in a person, and see how they can manage it. Because I've certainly gotten sick. I've been in, and I've watched other people like there's this one temple in Teotihuacan, which is full of what we call like the black light, which would be like sort of another way to describe the light of the unmanifest, like the direct source, right? And it's, and I can remember as a kid going with Miguel, and he'd be like, one, he would sort of edit who was allowed to come into this temple. And he would say, Mija, only eat so much black light. I'll tell you when to stop. And I said, okay. I didn't really, I was kind of like, oh, Miguel, whatever, I can eat as much black light. I'm good. But I certainly,
I'm gonna eat all the black light.
All the black light. I'm a Scorpio, baby. I can take it. And but I can remember actually going home back to the hotel, back to the retreat center, from one of these temples, having eaten too much black light, and Miguel was like assigning someone to me to like fix me, like go fix her. She got blown open, and I was sick. I was felt nauseous, had a headache, all those things. And I've certainly, as a leader, learned to really respect it, because I also kind of thought, well, I can manage this, right? I can manage this. Everybody's welcome in this temple, and I can manage it. And man, even with, what are you seeing? You got spirits over there?
Oh yeah. So, oh yeah.
I'm like, what we calling in?
It's not black though.
Okay. All right. Well,
it's not the black light, just the Indian burial ground that I live on. I think they're agreeing with you.
Okay. All right. Well, I wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, it was, several years ago, and I'm there with Jaime, who's Sarit the sun, and really an amazing shaman in his own right. And so I'm thinking, we're good. We got this. We brought them to this temple, and it was a bunch of newbies too. And I'm thinking, look, we're good. I got Jaime, like two of us, we're good. And man, at one point, we're just like looking around, and we're like, people are on their back and flopping around, and eyes back in the head, and just, oh no, we're both looking at each other like, oh shit, like, what did we do? Like, quick, back together again, and let's get the fuck out of here.
Well, but that's a thing, right? And I think when people get involved in the beyond, one of their natural fascinations is the darkness, right? Where is it? I want to see it. I want to go into the haunted place and see the demon. I want to feel the darkness move within me. Especially those of us in this country who were essentially raised under the energetic umbrella of Puritans. We have very conflicted emotions and decisions about how to deal with the darkness within us. We fear it, probably unrationally, and then we also are fascinated with it much more than we probably should be, because it was the thing that was taken from us.
Mm-hmm.
We're not allowed to have it, and we're not allowed to acknowledge it. It's evil, so we want to know all about it. And I notice when people get involved in this world and they start their spiritual path, part of it is they get very excited about darkness. How do I deal with darkness? What kind of work can I do against the darkness? Can I become a demonologist? It's like, whoa, really? You've been in this for a week.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a fascination. And I think that it's important for us, because that is the work that we do, right? To fight the dragons, to eradicate a lot of the dark, that we pass on to people that, oh, this is not for beginners. Do not try this at home.
Yeah. Well, to clarify, the black light is not the same thing. So just to clarify, what I'm talking about, bring people to Uteo, is not anything in that realm of, darkness, so to speak. It's really more the light of source, right? The sort of the light before the light is what we refer to in Teotihuacan as the black light. But that being said, it's shifting the conversation to sort of, the darkness and people's fascination with it, and hunger for it, really. Definitely. I've had people that wanted to study with me, that one of their first questions was like, well, you're going to teach me about black magic, right?
Yes, right. Yes, exactly. And they get angry when you don't want to.
Yeah. No, actually, I don't play with black magic.
No, I don't either. And I didn't mean to take the black light into that topic about the darkness, but the spirits in this room were like, oh, and I'm like, oh yeah. Even spirits that aren't dark, you don't want to be messing with spirits right when you're just beginning to open up. But yeah, there is a fascination with the darkness, and it's amazing how, like you said, that people will just say to you, because I always think, for me, my operating system is avoid darkness at all costs.
Yeah.
Don't get involved with it. It's like, it's not like you're like, oh, I want to go in the ocean and play with the great white sharks. I mean, it's not, you know what I mean? There's a couple of wacky people that do that, but at least they bring a cage. It never occurs to me that that would be your idea of spirituality, but I do say that, and I think that I've probably lost some people because that just isn't an area that I will go into.
No, I mean, I think it's important as a healer that you're educated on, spiritual immunity, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
but really, the principles of black magic are the same as white magic. They really are.
Right.
The mechanisms at play are the same. It's all faith-based, and it's just where you put your faith. And I think that for me as a healer, I had to really find that place in me that recognized my own, not invincibility, because that's a dangerous place to believe yourself to be in, but to trust my own immunity and to trust in the light so much that I don't even need to indulge that. I don't even need to indulge the fear of the darkness.
Yeah.
And I don't need to indulge some sort of training that's going to give me a leg up on the darkness. All we need, thank you to the Beatles, is love.
Yes.
100%. And that's what I learned anytime that Sarita was clearing black magic and curses and doing exorcisms in our work together. I mean, there were certain things she had me do, but mostly it was pray, Mija. Just pray and don't stop praying.
Yes.
Keep going. Keep the love in your heart and you'll be just fine. Still, she wouldn't let me touch those people that she was working, at the beginning, she wouldn't. But really the truth is all we need is love, because we are, like frequency attracts, right? And so
absolutely. Do you think that all of that work that she did that take a toll on her physically sometimes?
I'm sure that it did. It was an effort. It was an effort for sure. And I'm sure that it did. I mean, I know that kind of work, I mean, you think, okay, it should be effortless, just being the love, because we already are the love, right? And yet, I don't know. There's something about, for me, it's not so much the darkness that is a thing that creates the work. It's the person's resistance to the light that creates the work, right?
I agree.
And that's the thing.
I agree.
Resistance. And it's like, just once you get through the resistance and just find that sweet spot that opens them, then it's easy. But it's the resistance. It's the resistance. It's their fear. Right. It's their resistance, their lack of faith. And once you get through that, then the work is done, basically.
And don't you think there's a fear of surrender? It's the fear of surrender. The fear of releasing, of giving up the control and allowing the light to come in and fill you.
Yeah, sure.
People find that very scary, and it's such a beautiful thing once you do it. But I think we have a resistance to any kind of surrender because we're sort of culturalized as human beings not to surrender. Don't surrender. Never give up. But once you sort of let that light in and let spirit sort of co-create all of the decisions for your life with you, everything is so much more easy and it's so much more connected and you feel so much richer and fuller inside all the time, right? So it's an exercise in futility to sort of keep it away, keep it away, keep it away. But yet we do it.
We do it. And resistance isn't as futile as the bumper sticker will suggest, it does, right? It certainly does hold you. And I think underneath it all, and this is maybe a difficult pill for people to swallow, and yet I think underneath it, it's less of a, I don't know, there's a fear and a lack of trust of the light and of God and of love. And it's not a place that people really want to look at or admit to themselves. because it's a big wound, and it's one of the first wounds that we have, before our heart was ever broken by a lover or by our parents, right? It was broken by God. It was broken not by love itself, but by the absence of love. This thing that we were reaching for and that we were trusting and that we sort of knew that we were without knowing that I am divine. And then, something comes in and makes us question that divinity, makes us question that perfection, makes us question, is the light always there for us? Is the love always there for us? And we start to gather the evidence against it. And so it's a deeper and a bigger wound underneath there that, we don't really want to admit that we trust in suffering and we trust in darkness to prevail more than we trust in light and love and joy to prevail, right? I mean, what do most people do the moment they're happy? They're looking for the piano to fall on their head, or they say they speak into some blessing in their life, and then they're knocking on wood, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right,
exactly. They're always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Right. So really, in the heart of humanity, in the broken heart of humanity, there's a greater trust in the darkness than there is in the light. And that's the wound to heal. That's the wound.
Well, and there's that that fallback that we have, that it's probably just all going to go to shit in the end anyhow. So why bother?
Well, yes.
Then we need to get ourselves out of that mentality, because the truth is, Spirit is working for everything to work out amazing for us. Mm-hmm. It's us that takes that step backwards, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And our body is a reflection of, the macro, right? Here's the micro and there's the macro. And our body is attuned for pleasure, not for suffering, right? Actually, it's attuned for pain avoidance, to like, how do I stop this pain? How do I get rid of this pain? How do I isolate this pain and freeze it, put it over there?
100%.
Yeah.
You're wonderful, my friend. Will you do this again? I would love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Where can people find you and get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, RebeccaHaywood.com is my website. And on Instagram, I'm known as Nawal_heart, and also as Shaman Sister on Facebook.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here, my friend. I love and adore you, and you bring the beautiful messages that we so need.
Thank you so much for having me, love.
Thank you so much to the wonderful Rebecca Haywood, the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network, for having me. Thank you to my wonderful engineer and producer, Emery, the wind beneath my wings, who makes this possible. We're here every Friday at 3:00 Pacific time on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. I'm at SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. Go visit there. Learn something about me. Also, if you need a friend, or you need to talk, or you need some spiritual assistance, send me a text message, 818-437-0886. And I'm on all the social media: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and X, formerly Twitter, just at Sheena Metal. Come and find me, and we'll do some fun, beautiful, light-filled stuff together. Till I see you next week, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always work to raise your vibration, and remember that you are love, and you are loved, and you're so loved by me. I'm Sheena. This is The Experience. I'll see you next week. Enjoy your spiritual journey, and keep loving. Take care.